something of a departure today because I'm not going to be discussing my predictions for the future, but I'm going to be discussing predictions that have been made nationally and internationally in just the past few hours and the past few weeks. Few hours, meaning literally about 12, 14 hours ago. Oh, and by the way, let me interrupt right here and now. Those of you who are interested in following up, there's going to be a third um, meeting, a treatment meeting, in which you'll learn how to adjust with the mind and improve and take advantage and gain in spite of what we've gone through. It's a Kreskin experience that's going to last a little over an hour. I'm having a third one, and we'll announce when that can be so that you can purchase tickets if you're interested. But let's get to the heart of the matter. I happened to have the news on last night. I didn't have fictional news. It was hard to find nonfiction in broadcasting, but I did. And I couldn't believe what I just heard because some of the advisors, not just one, not Fauci, His Holiness Fauci, and I don't want to disregard religion, but he certainly has got his following as he knows everything that's going to happen in the future. It's not just his comments, but the comments of many others that what we've gone through and the shutdown and the dieting of our lifestyle. That's the dieting I'm concerned about, that it's not going to end. It may go on eternally for the rest of our lives. And that's been said now by 3 or 4, quote, authorities. The future of behavior as we see it today and we're living through, and their feeling is that it cannot continue easily, but will become eternal because it will be our way, including the covering of our faces. Yes, that we could be wearing masks not a couple of years from now, but 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Remember a year or so ago that we were promised and told by these same authorities, and some were not holy, but pretended to be, that by the summer of 2020, things were going to come back to normal. Then it became the winter of 2020. Then we were told it was going to happen in 21. And now we're hearing these changes in our future social structure. It's a shame we don't teach history anymore. We don't teach it in grade school. One of the great sins as a parent, I would be livid that my kids are not learning about the past and the richness of our society and the challenges that we've gone through. But maybe we should reflect upon World War I. I wasn't here then, but I was a little kid during World War II. You want to know something? At the end of that war, within a year or two, when my uncles who fought in the service and my aunts who served in their own way, when they came back, our lives went on. We had our gatherings, we had our get-togethers, and life went on incredibly. No, it didn't go that it stayed the way it was during the war for the next century or so. We got back to a norm. They're even suggesting, as Fauci mentioned a month or so ago, and now it's being reshuffled and addressed by others, that we may be shunning the rest of our lives handshaking. Well, I got news for you. You people who have made these stupid, asinine statements. You think you're going to destroy music in our society? Do you honestly think that because of your asinine, imbecilic remarks, that you're going to destroy one of the great homogeneous qualities of our society, and that is music? After all, forget about handshaking. What about dancing? Oh, yeah. And then the sports, wrestling, and what have you. Oh, we are changing in somewhat our lifestyles. We're moving out of cities. But that isn't because of the tragic disease and the tragedy it has been. It's because of crime. It's because of people entering our cities that our politicians are making possible. And by the way, don't think that they're doing this to save us or to salvage and keep together the American society. That's not why they're doing it. It's a situation of power. That's what's behind all these movements of power. Look what they did with our kids not going to school for a year. They should be ashamed of themselves. So we're going to be moving out of the cities because people are finding that there's a whole oasis of less occupied open spaces that you can walk amongst. There's less crime. Real estate is not as expensive. And there's open spaces that have great temptations about them. We're going to protest still what's happening to people who own stores and are seeing part of their life savings destroyed when there are riots and marches and what have you. I got news for you. Things like that didn't happen even during the Second World War. It was unheard of, because if you saw someone breaking into a store, you and your friends would retaliate against them and stop them from doing such a thing. And oh, by the way, this business of our future continuing the way it has, what they have created. Why don't we study history? Study 1912, one of the great savage diseases of modern history, the Spanish flu, and how it devastated thousands and thousands, millions of people everywhere. And yet, guess what? Want to know something? A decade later, we had the Roaring 20s, where people were screaming, laughing, singing, dancing, and enjoying themselves immensely. Somehow, in spite of the devastating tragedy, we outgrew it. Our leaders right now, and I use the term leaders with question marks around them, don't understand this. The one thing they're enabling us to do is to save on gas, so long as we pay more for a gallon. Or we'll save on clothes because we won't have to dress up as much, and some will not have to wear high heels. They'll be gardening because some people found during this period where everything was shut down that it was very, very satisfying to go out and look at the growth of our neighborhoods and what have you. And games were playing, private games, puzzles were being taken care of. And then one of the great discoveries for many was the outdoors, walking, hiking, and the traveling. Maybe the traveling was only 6 blocks or 10 blocks away. But vacations, we're going to have more vacations. They're not going to be as far. They're going to be in cities nearby, but it will give us the escape and the refreshment of joining others that we're close to. Oh, there's going to be more parties, not the parties that these know-it-alls will be invited to. I mean, you're not going to curse your party with that kind of situation, but you're going to have gatherings of parties and bars and large concerts, and the people who cooked privately will share some of their food as they amass larger and larger groups. And oh, by the way, a feature is going to return. One of the most priceless psychological moments that man will never lose. Oh, it's not that we're not going to shake hands anymore, but you're going to see the return of the momentary, beautiful experience of a hug. A hugging between two people is one of the priceless moments of our society. So their prediction about the future and it perhaps having to stabilize in the way it is now, I know what you will be thinking of. You'll be reading my thoughts as well, because if they address this to me in the next year or so, I would simply tell them to go to hell. Because after all, isn't that what they created? Shutting down schools for a year? Shutting down society? No. When they predict this shutdown lifestyle, they're not predicting it of you and me. They're predicting it of their own lives. They earned it. Folks, to be continued.